it would not be a Michael Legan program unless I had a little bit of time to bash the Mets. Anyone who's ever known me, knows that. Look, in recent days, I have been accused by some of being an overly negative Mets fan. Who was right, people? I think I was. I know we've been doing the show. I haven't been able to check the Mets score. They were winning before I came on this show. They're probably losing now. I don't know what they're doing. But the point is, look, I was very tough on the Mets as of late, and I honestly think rightfully so. I mean, the way they're playing in Miami is abysmal. And I know this isn't nothing to do with Rocker. We'll get to that in a second. But, the poor play in Miami, the division is slowly slipping away. I know it's a terrible division, but it's been very frustrating watching the Mets on the field. And I'd said it before on the Saturday show about I was very mixed on the deadline because I liked our producer Alex Wells is telling me 3-3 in the top of the eighth. Of course they would blow a 3-0 lead. I would love to know what reliever gave that up. Thank you very much, Alex. I can't wait to yell at my TV after the show is over. Anyway, the point is that I was very mixed on the trade deadline because they knew DeGrom was hurt. They didn't get a starting pitcher. Baez, I was fine with, but it didn't seem like they didn't get a reliever, which I was very upset about. They didn't get a quality starter, and Walker is imploding in Miami again last night, and Stroman's been up and down still. DeGrom is out even further now, it seems. So I was already down on the Mets on the field. I was already down on the Mets in terms of the front office execution. I was already saying that I didn't think Zach Scott deserved to come back the way that he had been performing as the Mets GM. Sandy, even though he doesn't get as much heat, should not be back as the president. And then what happens? As last week progresses, we start to hear these rumblings. It seems like the Mets and Kumar Rocker might not be able to come to a deal. And I'm like, what's going on over here? What are we talking about? And, I saw like one tweet from one beat reporter, like, this seems like it's posturing, a deal's going to get done. Like the Mets knew going, whatever. I was like, okay, all right. And then Sunday morning, I think it was, rolls around, and it's like Anthony DiComo, Mets beat reporter, is saying, yeah, a deal's not going to happen by the deadline. I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, what is going on here? I don't understand what this team is doing. And I know I'm going on a bit of a rant, but I need to because it's therapeutic. But like it's baffling to me. There's just two ways to look at it. So for those who don't know, I'm sure everyone knows, unless you're living under a rock, the Major League Baseball teams have a deadline to sign their draft picks by Sunday evening. I think it was like 4 or 5 o'clock. I don't remember the time exactly.
5 p.m. Yep.
5 p.m. Thank you, Nick. And so Rocker, who was the number 10 selection, everyone was shocked that he had fallen all the way down to 10. He had a $6 million signing bonus on the table, evidently, and all that went by the wayside. There are, the Mets, it seems, were very alarmed by his MRI in his elbow and his arm. He didn't do the voluntary, like through the MLB MRI. He did some kind of separate procedure, which was a little suspicious. So he doesn't get signed. There are some people in the Mets apparently who still think he's going to have a great career. Obviously, not enough of them did because they let him walk. So the Mets now will get the compensatory. I can't say the word. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Compensatory. There we go. That's what I wanted to say. Compensatory pick in next year's draft, number 11 overall. In addition to whatever pick they're going to have anyway. For me, it's just such a disgrace that this happened, and it's just another indictment on the front office because. There's two ways of looking at it. Either number one, they had no idea that he was this injured, which shows you just how inept they are because if all these other teams knew he was this hurt and you didn't, that's pathetic. Or number two, they knew he was injured and they're like, he's going to fall to us. You know what? Let's take the risk. We're going to take him and we'll sign him. He'll get surgery. We know what we're getting going in. And obviously, neither of those. I'm leaning more towards the first option, to be honest. The fact that they didn't know. And to me, if that's the case, these guys got to go. That is unacceptable from a front office point of view, especially if other GMs around the league know that this guy has serious medical problems with his throwing arm. So it's an utter abomination. And between the Mets' putrid play on the field, it looks like who knows what's going to happen tonight. Probably a loss. I can't take it anymore. It was so bad last night. I was flipping through the channels. I put on like Lego Masters, like some reality TV show where people build Lego. I'd never seen it before. It's like, I cannot watch this game. I got to put this on, here we go. Thank you. This is amazing. Alex is giving us updates as we're talking. 4-3 homer, Baez. I guess he was a good trade move. But anyway, I got to say, when I have to watch Lego Masters, which is probably a show aimed at 10-year-olds, you know that the Mets are playing bad. But between the bad play on the field, the lackluster trade deadline, Baez had a home run notwithstanding, and now this Rocker debacle, I don't know what to say about this organization. Nick, I've been ranting here for like 5 minutes. Take it away.
Yeah, I think you needed to do that, 100%.
Yeah.
You were waiting the whole show, so I'm glad you got it out. And I agree for the most part with what you're saying. You know, I think the major thing is the Mets, I think, desperately need DeGrom. Obviously, that's not an option right now. You know, it's just such comfort knowing you have him on the mound, and he hasn't pitched in several weeks, I believe. So it's definitely a problem there.
Yeah, he hasn't pitched since literally
before the All-Star break.
The All-Star break is the last time he pitched. So it's been a while.
Exactly. So that is, I think they're always DeGrom is the number one concern. He's the best pitcher in baseball. That's simple. But to move past that, I agree. I think they should have done more at the deadline. I think if you were, DeGrom's been a little iffy with his health this whole season. You got to go and make a move. I thought Taijuan Walker, I didn't think he'd really be shaky after the break, but it was, the Mets pitching has never been necessarily a strong suit, I think you can say. One of the best pitching staffs in the league. But
I got to disagree with that, Nick, to be honest, because, I mean, look, going into the All-Star break before the sticky stuff deadline, the Mets had one of the best staff ERAs in baseball.
So my question is, what's happening now?
That's what's happening now. I think you could throw out a few factors. I mean, look, I think the Mets is a franchise, and look, only true Met fans are going to know this. As a Yankee fan, I'm not going to knock you for not, being up on a loser franchise. But, the Mets, the one thing they've always had is pitching, from Seaver to Gooden, even like the 2000s with Al Leiter. Like, we've had pitchers. Obviously in 2015, the whole thing was like they had this stable of Syndergaard, DeGrom, Harvey, Matz.
Oh, yeah, that was
Syndergaard and DeGrom, that pretty much worked out, but the other guys, not so much. Wheeler worked out, but the Mets were too dumb to resign him. Thank you, coupons, aka the Wilpons, for that one. So in this year, I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting what happened. DeGrom, of course, I have high expectations for. Walker, I really didn't know what I was getting. It was a later signing, and Stroman, was up and down his first year at the Mets, opted out the COVID year, and now he was back. I didn't know, and he had a very strong first half, but he's been more up and down. Carrasco had been hurt. Like, I wasn't expecting a whole lot, but the simple fact is they did perform very strong. And, coming out of the All-Star break, I was like, the pitching should still be a strength for this team. And the simple fact of the matter is that it hasn't. Exactly. And it's been very disappointing. I don't know if it's the sticky stuff ban, which it could be. I don't know if it's the fact that they're tired because of a shortened COVID season. They're not stretched out as much. I'm not really sure what's going on. But, my question to you is, putting the current team aside, is it under any circumstances, is it acceptable for a team to draft a player, top 10, a guy that many thought could have been a top 3 pick, and let him get away? I mean, what is that acceptable?
No, not at all. I mean, it's to me, that's common sense. I don't see, obviously the health is just such a prominent issue in every sport, but baseball with pitchers, of course, it's the forefront factor of what makes you want to or not select a certain player. He's very young. He's 21 years old. But, the numbers that he posted at Vanderbilt were phenomenal. I had to do my research on him. 122 innings and 20 starts last season. Struck out 179 batters, 2.73 ERA. So he's eligible again for the 2022 draft, and that's all on the Mets. The compensation that they receive, I don't even know if compensation is the right word. It's almost like, oh, you didn't sign him. Here you go. Whatever. Just take this. It's very Mets to me. I think you could probably agree with that.
It is.
I don't know what you're doing not signing. What my just generic most forefront, I think, common knowledge, not even talking sports, is you made a selection, a choice. Why would you not follow through with that choice? That to me was kind of, when I read it, I was like, what? Is that for real? I had to kind of second guess. I was like, what's the point of drafting someone if you do not plan on taking them, especially that high? So that I think is, it's unacceptable, as you said, as you made it very clear in your little rant as we started. But I don't know what the thought process was there. I mean, I'm sure. I'm not sure of anything. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't sign him. I'm baffled by the fact they didn't sign him.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think any of us are really going to know unless we're in their front office. I mean, there was a report that, Anthony Tacoma said that an offer was never even on the table at one point. Maybe that was Puma. Mike Puma, who's a MSP reporter, said that there was never even an offer on the table, apparently, which is absurd. They didn't even give him an offer that, apparently, and maybe this was just Boris, trying to make his client look good, but apparently he would have accepted anything, and the Mets didn't even try. I don't know. To me, and you just said it, it's the same old Mets. I don't know whether I could very well see this kid getting drafted next year by the Braves. He's going to go over there, be dominant against us, have
That
a
would be
great career.
terrible.
Yeah, and that's just a classic Mets move right there. The one thing, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this as well, and as we're approaching the end of our show, is looking at it from a greater from a Mets perspective. Look, I'm very upset by this from a Mets point of view. To me, it's another nail in the coffin of Zach Scott and Sandy. Looking at it from a Rocker standpoint or from a guy entering the MLB draft, he's not going to be eligible. He can't sign with any other club. He's not allowed to, and he won't be eligible to enter the draft until next year, 2022. And he's already, and I think this is foolish, and I'd like to hear your thoughts. He's already ruled out a return to Vanderbilt.
Ooh.
And so there's a question of what is he going to do in this 1 year off? Especially with the NCAA changes. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense. But, your thoughts on, is it fair that he can't sign with anyone? And, what should Rocker do in this, this one season as he prepares for the draft?
I almost think you snooze, you lose as the Mets. I think he should be able to sign. If you get drafted and then now you have to wait a year because that team didn't capitalize. Now you as the player are penalized for it. I don't necessarily like that ruling at all. Especially, he can't return. He's really got nowhere to go. What is he going to play overseas? I don't like it at all. Really, I think you can't go back to school. He's not a Met clearly, and he doesn't have the opportunity to further his career options. Just like in any other industry that you may partake in, not just sports. If you don't get one job opportunity, you should be able to look for another. So that's what I think is a little unfair in this matter. Especially because he doesn't have an option to go back to school. He's done, and he's got to wait now. Not just he's not eligible for 2021. He's got to wait a whole another year, whole another season of not playing in the big leagues or minor leagues. Obviously, if he weren't just to be called right up. But I think maybe I don't know. The MLB is just such iffy rules in a lot of categories, but. I would love to see them change that. If you don't get picked up by the team that drafted you, I think you should be eligible to go talk to other teams. Because I guarantee you a lot of other teams would want to take this guy if they had the choice or the chance. Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean it's a tricky situation because on the one hand it's like a team can hold a player hostage. Like, hey, if you don't sign with us, then you can't get out of it. You're kind of like you're stuck in a sense. But also a player. Let's say a player doesn't want to play for like the Kansas City Royals. They could just sit there, refuse to sign their contract, and then boom, they're a free agent. They can go wherever they want. So it's really iffy. For the one point of view, I understand it. I understand the owner point of view. I understand the player point of view. It's really strange. And just briefly before we're up against it here, in terms of Rocker, I don't know what he's going to do. Would it make sense for him to get surgery, right now and just like rehab for a year? If he wants to pitch, I think it makes sense to go back to college. Vanderbilt's a big name, and now with the new rules, he can make money off his likeness. I mean, it's kind of dumb for him to go play in Japan or in like independent ball. I don't really see that kind of being good for his image and making a lot of money. I think NCAA might be the best bet. Maybe just sitting out a year and kind of resting and seeing what happens might be the best bet.